countdown begin.
Hello everybody, welcome to the 100 Fantasy Football channel. My name is Ivan Herrera and I'm so happy that you are here with us this evening. We are going to be going over so many things to get you ready for week 3 of the fantasy football season. If this is our first time meeting, once again, my name is Ivan. I would highly appreciate if you hit that like button. It definitely helps out with the algorithm. And I also encourage you to also smash that subscribe button so then that way you're always alerted whenever I drop a new video. Currently, my schedule, I look to drop one video once a week on YouTube, going live on Saturdays. So today we're going to be going through over a lot of different things. But the main thing before we kick things off, I would be remiss if I didn't first share just a tribute to someone that has made a huge impact in the fantasy football community and in the industry in general, and that is Michael Tagliere from Fantasy Pros, also known as Tags. We've known for a few weeks now that he was battling COVID. His beautiful wife was always updating us on Twitter as far as his status and how he was doing, asking for prayers and good vibes and everything. And unfortunately, the battle of COVID came to an end just recently when Mike passed away, and it's with a heavy heart. And as a fan of his work and the passion that he brought each and every time that he was on video or through his pieces that he wrote for Fantasy Pros, it's really hard. It's with a heavy heart that we say goodbye to our friend Mike Tagliere, and we send obviously our prayers and condolences over to his family, to the entire Fantasy Pros community, as well as to the entire company. And I know they're raising funds, so be sure to follow Tags on Twitter. His wife also is on there as well, and it's really heavy, especially as a father myself, having 2 girls. It's really difficult to just fathom losing and just leaving them behind. So just sending over obviously our best wishes to Mike Tagliere, and thank you for all that you did to really contribute to this industry, and so many of us that are just new aspiring content creators like myself that are looking to make an impact just like you. So thank you for everything that you did, and we just truly are grateful for the time that you got to spend here with us on this earth, and we just send our prayers over to your family. So thank you. But with that, let's go ahead and quickly get into our show breakdown. So we have a lot to get to. We had so many injuries in week 2, so we're going to go over all those and how you can prepare for week 3. We also saw a significant injury with the best player in fantasy football, Christian McCaffrey. I'll dive into that when we go over the Thursday night recap. I'll also go over the players I love going into week 3. We'll go over my favorite segment, cap or no cap. And we're also going to share my bold predictions for the upcoming week. And then we're going to answer some questions that we got from TikTok. And then from very last, we're going to go over the 100 Fantasy Football League matchups. And I'm going to also share with you guys a fun resource that I do for my league as well, so that way you can get a little bit more of what I do for the league and to make it engaging. So with that, let's go ahead and go over really quick the Thursday night matchup. So on Thursday, we had a very significant injury take place. Christian McCaffrey went down with a hamstring injury and was immediately out for the game. It was the Houston Texans going up against the Carolina Panthers, and the big news was Christian McCaffrey being out with a hamstring injury. Immediately was ruled out of the game. He wasn't placed on IR, so people are feeling pretty optimistic considering that he's not going to miss 3 weeks for now. We're going to see how he does and how the team continues to evaluate him there in Carolina. So for now, the best thing that I can tell you is keep an eye out to see if Chubba Hubbard, running back rookie that was drafted in this 2001 draft for the Carolina Panthers, is anywhere available. He is still available in most leagues. I was able to pick him up last week, so be sure to keep an eye out and really expect him to not necessarily fill the void completely of what Christian McCaffrey would do, but do expect him to get a significant load to make an impact in fantasy. So keep an eye out for Chubba Hubbard. Now, the second takeaway that we got from that game was Corey Davis. We had Tyrod Taylor unfortunately not play for the Houston Texans, so we had the young quarterback Davis Mills take his place, and he really showed strong rapport with Corey Davis, and Corey Davis looked absolutely phenomenal. So here's the stats right here. He had 9 receptions for 11 targets for 112 yards, giving him 21.7 fantasy points in that matchup. So Corey Davis is just currently showing how phenomenal and how talented he is. Now he's had back-to-back games with double-digit targets, and now has over 100 yards in 2 of 3 games. So only thing that I can tell you is that Brandin Cooks is someone that, was I saying Corey Davis? I'm sorry. Brandin Cooks is someone that has been absolutely phenomenal. So I would just tell you that just to continue to play him with confidence, because he's the main target there. The running backs really didn't do much for you to continue to want to play them. So for now, they belong on your bench. A lot of the usage came from the passing game, and the game script really did favor the wide receivers. So Brandin Cooks is someone that continues to show his dominance. Again, 9 receptions, 11 targets for 112 yards for 21.7 points. Now he's had back-to-back games with double-digit targets, and now has over 100 yards in 2 of 3 games. So Brandin Cooks has been absolutely phenomenal and will continue to do so. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the injuries that we witnessed in week 2 and what that's going to affect going into week 3. So we have here our notable injuries. We're going to begin, of course, we already went over Christian McCaffrey, who technically is classified as a week 3 injury, being that it took place on Thursday. But we had Tua Tagovailoa suffer a rib injury, and he was placed on the IR. Now, if you're not too familiar with how the IR works in the NFL, that means that for a minimum of 3 games, that player is going to be designated as out. So don't expect Tua Tagovailoa to be in your lineups anytime soon until he is cleared from that injury. In his place, you're going to see Jacoby Brissett take over. My quick takeaway from this is you're going to probably play Jalen Waddle, but you're going to manage your expectations, being that we've already seen Jacoby Brissett play, and he's not someone that really is going to bring you much fantasy football value. So I don't expect Jacoby Brissett to be rostered on many leagues. But the only player I would tell you to start as far as the wide receivers go would be Jalen Waddle. I'm a little nervous about Myles Gaskin going forward as well, so I would fade on him for now. See if you can part ways with him, whether through a trade or whatever it is. But it's going to be really hard going forward without Tua Tagovailoa to play any of them with confidence. The next injury we saw was Jarvis Landry went down with the MCL strain. It was with his left knee, and he was also placed on the IR early last week. So it makes it easy for us to know that he also will be out for 3 3 weeks. And of course, the big news was Odell Beckham Jr. A lot of signs are pointing for him to play in week 3, and being that he's going to be the main target there, expect big numbers from him. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how he does in his first game back. This will be his season debut. I know my boy Jimmy is a huge fan of Odell Beckham as well as those Browns, so we'll see how they do in week 3. Next we got over here. Hey, what up, what up? I see my boy right there, Robert. Next thing we have Antonio Brown. He is also classified as out. He didn't travel to LA to go with the Buccaneers to play the Rams, so he was out because of the COVID-19 protocol. So continue to just monitor him. He may be able to go next week, assuming that he has 2 negative tests within a 24-hour periods. So the way it works with COVID-19 is that in order to be back, if you're a vaccinated player, you have to have 2 negative tests within 24-hour periods to be able to be cleared. Antonio Brown, it looks like he didn't clear that, so he's going to be out for the Buccaneers. So expect big games from Chris Godwin, expect big games from Mike Evans, as well as Rob Gronkowski, even though they're going up against the LA Rams. Deontay Johnson was also declared out for the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I expect Juju Smith-Schuster to have a really good game, as well as Chase Claypool, who's had a little bit of a slow start, but I expect some big things from him. I also have here that Andy Dalton was also ruled out with a bone bruise in his left knee, which means that all signs are now clear for Justin Fields, the rookie, to make his debut this Sunday. So big things out for there. Now, as far as players that are still questionable, I'll go over those really briefly. We have T. Higgins from the Cincinnati Bengals, who was still doubtful after the evaluation today that he had, and Darrell Henderson from Sean McVay, who's the head coach of the Rams, announced that Darrell Henderson will be a game-time decision. The lineup isn't going to be, or rather the matchup isn't going to be the most ideal going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have held running backs pretty low in scoring. So manage expectations, even if he is healthy and ready to go. Same goes for Sony Michel, who would be the next man up to replace Darrell Henderson. So going into the Buccaneers matchup, I'm a little nervous for both guys, but still something to keep an eye out as we get ready for Sunday tomorrow for the games to go through. And lastly, the 49ers backfield has been a little bit messy as far as injuries. JaMycal Hasty has had an ankle injury, as well as Elijah Mitchell was suffering a shoulder injury throughout the entire week. Both of them are going to be doubtful for Sunday, which means Trey Sermon, who officially cleared from the concussion protocol, is good to go for week 3. And I am banking that he does phenomenal in this matchup. They're going to be really relying on Trey Sermon, and my thing is I invested really high on him, so I hope that this is the game where he does he just goes bonkers. He goes completely off and solidifies himself as the running back there to really rely on for the 49ers. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward. We're going to go into now the players that I love going into week 3. And the first one that I want to go over is one of my guys that I really loved in the offseason, and that is Michael Pittman Jr. Now, I think Michael Pittman Jr. is going to have a phenomenal game versus the Tennessee Titans. And Carson Wentz was still playing, or actually he was a participant in practice late this past week, so we'll see if he's going to be playing. But the thing is, I love the matchup for Michael Pittman Jr. He's going up against the Titans, who have allowed the fourth most fantasy points to the perimeter wide receiver, and Michael Pittman has been lined up there 75% of the time this season, and he has a good matchup going up against corners Janoris Jenkins as well as Christian Fulton. The Titans also gave up the 5th most fantasy football points overall to wide receivers last year. Currently in 2021, they're giving up the most, so I expect Michael Pittman to have a phenomenal week versus the Titans, so be sure to make sure that he's in your lineups ready to go for week 3. My next one is going to be running back Mike Davis. Now, for those of you that didn't notice, I also had Mike Davis as one of the players that I was high on going into this season, and it was predominantly because I thought he would get most of the volume as well as the target share in Atlanta. And so far, even though Cordero Patterson has been the buzz this past week because of his 2-touchdown performance, I'm still going to rely on Mike Davis to be the main guy there in Atlanta. Look, They're going up against the New York Giants. They were in the bottom 10 in fantasy football points allowed to the running back. And look, just like I said, Mike Davis has a healthy target share. So far in the season, he has a 68% target share, which ranks third in targets among running backs and 12th in touches. So he's still going to be heavily involved. The good thing about what Mike Davis does is that he brings so much value with his receiving ability, which always bodes well in PPR formats. So Mike Davis always gives you at least a solid floor to rely on, and going into week 3 versus the Giants, he is a solid play. So go ahead and go with Mike Davis in week 3, and hopefully he'll do some big numbers for you going up against the Giants, being that the matchup is good. And staying on this matchup, I'm going to go to the other side, which is Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones is going up against the Atlanta Falcons. So far in the fantasy football season, he has been a top 4 quarterback. He not only is showcasing that through his passing ability, but he's also showing that through his legs by putting up 90 rushing yards and has scored 2 rushing touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. Now, the thing is, I really like Daniel Jones being that Jalen Hurts had a phenomenal game in week 1 versus the Falcons, and Tom Brady had 5 touchdowns in week 2. I think that more of the same will continue for Danny Dimes. I believe this is also a get-right game for Kenny Golladay, who will make his comeback party begin in week 3. I have him rostered. I made a trade for Kenny Golladay because of the matchup, so I'm praying that Kenny Golladay goes off, but all that will be orchestrated by the quarterback, Danny Dimes. So Danny Dimes is a must-start for week 3 of the fantasy football season. So with that, we're going to go ahead and quickly get into one of my favorite segments, if not my favorite segment, and that is cap or no cap. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. So the question that we're asking this week is Tom Brady matchup proof rest of season? So it's pretty phenomenal that the GOAT has been continuing to showcase his talents and adding to his already loaded resume. Through 2 games of the 2021 season, the man has 9 touchdowns, has had a phenomenal season so far, and is going up against his toughest matchup yet, which is why we're asking this question. Is it safe to say that Tom Brady is matchup proof? So are we capping, or is this no cap? That's an easy no cap. Tom Brady is matchup proof in 2021. This guy has so many weapons all across the entire field, beginning with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and of course his best friend Rob Gronkowski. And we also didn't mention Antonio Brown, who's going to be out upcoming with the Los Angeles Rams. And going into week 3, I get it. He's going up against a very tough matchup. I'll read you some quick stats just to solidify where I'm coming from here. In 2021, the LA Rams have given up the ninth fewest points to the quarterback, but they also gave up the fewest in 2020. So this is a tough matchup, even though Tom Brady, we just said he's going to be matchup proof. The thing is, the Rams play a zone defense, and Tom Brady really performs much better when he's going up against a man-to-man defensive scheme. So I think the matchup is going to be tough, but I want to go on the limb here and just say that Tom Brady is going to make his debut in Los Angeles versus the Rams, and I think he's going to go bananas on the big stage, being that he's going to be out here in the West Coast. So I expect Tom Brady to be matchup proof rest of season, being that he still has some phenomenal matchups to really feast off of. And the Rams are the only team that I'm worried about, but being that Tom Brady has so many weapons, he's already entering his 2nd season with Bruce Arians, has more familiarity with that offense. I'm going to go ahead and just say that Tom Brady is matchup proof in 2021. So with that, let's go ahead and quickly get into my bold prediction for the weekend. And call me a homer, I can care less. But with that, let's go ahead and first cue up the intro for a bold prediction.
It's a bold strategy, Todd. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I'm going to call it right now. Dallas Goedert is going to go off versus the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. So here's the thing. I get it. I'm an Eagles fan. You can call me a homer. I can take it. I'm just really excited for Dallas Goedert. I know that Zach Ertz is still in the mix, but I'm not too worried about Zach Ertz really taking too many targets, considering that in 2 games, he's only had 4 targets thrown his way. And right now, that's going only up against Dallas Goedert, who's only had 7 targets. So even though Dallas Goedert even though Dallas Goedert hasn't had too much more of a separation as far as target share, I still believe that big things are ahead for the tight end in Philadelphia. And I believe that going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who have given up the 5th most points to the tight end this season, I expect that to continue on Monday Night Football. My stat prediction for this game is going to be 7 receptions on 8 targets for 92 yards and a touchdown for Dallas Goedert for the Philadelphia Eagles, who will upset and not blow out, but they're going to get the win on Monday versus the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. So I'm looking forward to that matchup, and I hope that you are as well, because I'm really excited for Dallas Goedert. So let's go ahead and quickly get into some Q&A, and then we're going to go to my 100 league matchups for the week. So let's go ahead and get to some Q&A first that I got from TikTok. So the way it works is I go through TikTok, get the best questions, and just answer them from there. So the first question we have right here comes from Francisco Collado. And Francisco Collado asks, Deontay and Amari Cooper for A.J. Brown and Allen Robinson. What you think? Deontay and Amari for A.J. Brown and Allen Robinson. I like it. I like it a lot. So I will tell you, pull the trigger. If you're getting that offer, I love A.J. Brown just because I think he's one of those wide receivers that does phenomenal after the catch. He's just so physical, and I think the size really benefits him as well to be able to be so efficient in that. And I love Allen Robinson. I've had him in my fantasy leagues for a few years now. Someone I've typically have always rostered just because I love the target share. I love the talent there. And I get it. You're giving up Deontay, who's the number 1 wide receiver there in Pittsburgh. He is going through injury, so I don't know if that's going to give you much leverage, being that I'm sure that the owner is mindful that he's going to be out. And Amari Cooper is the number 1 there in Dallas. Even though he had a pretty slow week 2, he had a really great week 1. But I will tell you, A.J. Brown for Allen Robinson. Sorry, A.J. Brown and Allen Robinson for Amari and Deontay. Go for it. I say do it. All right, next one. We're going to go next question, and that is from, sorry, let me pull this up. So, yeah, here you go. So the next question comes from Fresh West 75, who asks, DeAndre Hopkins for David Montgomery straight up. DeAndre Hopkins for David Montgomery. This is a tough one just because both guys are heavily involved with their respective positions. At running back, you're basically guaranteed a lot of work with David Montgomery. With DeAndre Hopkins, he's the number 1 target there in Arizona, and him and Kyler Murray have a phenomenal thing going. So I would say yes, DeAndre Hopkins for David Montgomery. I just prefer to play in PPR leagues, and even though David Montgomery does bring that value as well with his receiving ability, I like DeAndre Hopkins a lot. So I would say DeAndre Hopkins for David Montgomery. Yeah, why not? Go for it. Pull the trigger on that one. That's a good one. So next question comes from, let's go ahead and pull this one up. Make sure it's the right one. Yeah, okay, looks like it is. Okay, so here it is. Next one comes from Jack Fontana, and he's asking, would you trade away Myles Gaskin and revive Kareem Hunt? I think he means receive Kareem Hunt. I would say yes, and you guys know how much I love Myles Gaskin, but right now with Jacoby Brissett taking over, I'm not too confident with that Miami offense. I much rather prefer Kareem Hunt, who's going to be utilized in that Steven Stefanski offense. And I believe that with the Cleveland Browns really utilizing the running backs well, you get much more value with Kareem Hunt with the ability that he has with receiving. And also, if anything were to happen, God forbid, to Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt would be a top 5 play for those matchups. So I would say pull the trigger on Kareem Hunt, being that right now there's so many question marks with Myles Gaskin. Now, my final question is coming from NMC Derman, and he's asking for my flex position, DeAndre Swift, Devontae Smith, Harris, or Hawkinson PPR. Now, I love the matchup for Devontae Smith going up against the Dallas Cowboys. I also love Hawkinson, who's going up. Who are the Lions playing? The Lions are playing the Ravens. So I would say I would go with Hawkinson, because the thing is the Ravens have given up the most points to the tight end so far in 2021, and I believe that the value in your flex position with Hawkinson there, I would assume then you have Kelsey or a really good tight end that's in your tight end position if Hawkinson isn't there in your starting lineup. But Excuse me. Regardless, Hawkinson in your flex will be a surefire hit for week 3, being that the matchup is favorable going up against the Baltimore Ravens. So, all right, guys, now we're going to get into my favorite part. We are going to go over the matchups coming up in the 100 Fantasy Football League. The first one is Team Collins going up against El Kamish. You already know I'm favoring myself to win this matchup. No spoilers there, but we are going to go over the matchups, though, so that way you guys can see where we're at. So Alex is 0-2. I'm currently 2-0, and this is a tough one for Alex to really get into because he already has a few question marks there, beginning with his running back, Myles Gaskin. But here are the lineups that we are both charting out. At quarterback, Alex is going with Joe Burrow. His 2 running backs consist of Myles Gaskin and Kenyon Drake. His wide receivers are Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf. He has at tight end Jared Cook, and his 2 flex positions he has wide receiver Calvin Ridley as well as Jamar Chase, and he has the New England Patriots defense, and he has Justin Tucker as his kicker. Now I have Kyler Murray at my quarterback position. My 2 running backs consist of Austin Eckler and Joe Mixon. I also have at wide receiver Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore. I also have tight end Robert Tonyan in my tight end slot, and for my 2 flex positions I'm going with Trey Sermon as well as Corey Davis, wide receiver for the New York Jets. And for my defense, I have the Broncos as well as Rodrigo Blankenship going up against the Tennessee Titans. So here's the thing. I'm really excited for this matchup just because I think that DJ Moore did a really good job of getting a head start for myself in this matchup. I also like Terry McLaurin going up against Buffalo, even though that secondary is going to be tough. But I think that because he is the surefire guy there getting all that work, he's going to be the person that you're going to want to definitely rely on there in Washington. The one matchup I'm a little bit nervous about is Joe Mixon going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have been phenomenal at stopping the run. Austin Eckler going up against Kansas City. I love Austin Eckler in that matchup, considering that Kansas City's one of their main Achilles heels is their run defense. So I believe big things are boding well for Austin Eckler. Same thing goes for Kyler Murray going up against Jacksonville. The one question mark I also have on top of Joe Mixon is Trey Sermon going up against Green Bay on Sunday Night Football. My hope is that he's going to be, we know he's cleared for the concussion protocol. My hope is that he's going to carry the load, have his breakout party, because I invested in him in the 5th round. So I'm hoping that he does really well. So that's my take. And I also love Broncos going up against the Jets. I was bummed out that I didn't get the Washington football team, but so far, the Broncos in 2021, they've been a phenomenal defense to have, so I'm really happy with that. But for Alex, I'm not liking too many of his players in the matchups that he has, other than DK Metcalf going up against Minnesota. I think that'll be a plus matchup for sure for DK Metcalf, who will get back on track, being that Tyler Lockett has been the phenomenal wide receiver for Russell Wilson. I'm a little bit nervous about Kenyon Drake going up against Miami with that defense. And Myles Gaskin going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Also been kind of surprised that I think that the Raiders are for real. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that Myles Gaskin is going to have a pretty bad game, being that Jacoby Brissett's going to have to probably play from behind. So Myles Gaskin will be utilized in the passing game. Calvin Ridley going up against the Giants will be a tough one, being that secondary is very, very stout. Same goes for Jamar Chase going up against Pittsburgh. I think he may have an okay outing. This may be a trap game, actually, for Cincinnati, considering that Ben Roethlisberger hasn't been looking all that great. And then lastly, we have the Patriots and Justin Tucker. So that's why this could be easy. El Kamish is going to take the win on this one. So let's go ahead and go to the next one. We have Raise the Flags going up against El Chinito. So we have 2 1-1 teams going up against one another. So one of these guys will be, actually both of these teams will be either over 500 or under 500. So we will see come Tuesday morning. But here we go. I think the X factor in this one is going to be, just like I said for Jeremy last week, the quarterback position. Tom Brady was basically the one that set the nail in the coffin for his opponent last week, with Tom Brady getting 5 touchdowns. I think that Jalen Hurts is going to be the X factor for Howard, who I think will have a phenomenal matchup going up against the Dallas Cowboys. And you know what? This is where the rubber is going to meet the road for Saquon Barkley going up against the Falcons. This is a plus matchup for the Giants, for that offense, and I would love to see Saquon do really well. And this is where this matchup is going to really rely heavy for these two. So I'm going to really go here, being that I love the players that both players have here. I'm going to see that I think that Howard's going to win this one, just because I see Cortland Sutton going up against the Jets. I like Mike Williams going up against Kansas City. Same with Mark Andrews going up against the Lions. I'm a little bit concerned about how will Chris Carson bounce back. I'm sorry, not Chris Carson bounce back. How will Derrick Henry do? Because remember, I've been really low on Derrick Henry this season because of the usage that he's had. I mean, I get it. He had a phenomenal matchup in week 2 where he went for, I think it was 4 touchdowns or whatever it was. Will he be able to, duplicate that? I don't know. And then Kenny Golladay, I think he'll have a big matchup, but I just like the players better for Howard. So my prediction will be that Howard will get the win, even though currently right now it's projected to be a very close matchup. Next one we have Jordan Wood going up against German Contreras. We have AK-41 going up against Los Bichos. And here's the lineup that these gentlemen are both trotting out. For Jordan, we have Russell Wilson as a starting quarterback. He has Alvin Kamara as well as David Montgomery as his starting running backs. As starting wide receivers are going to be Chase Claypool and Will Fuller. His tight end will be George Kittle, and his 2 flex positions consist of Leonard Fournette and Sterling Shepard. Then he has his defense with the Steelers, and then he has Young-Ho Kwo as his kicker. For German, he has Justin Herbert as his quarterback. His running backs consist of Damian Harris and Cordell Patterson. His wide receivers are Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs. And we also have, for his flex positions, he has Laviska Shenault and Henry Ruggs with Tyler Higbee as his tight end. And then we have the Browns defense going up against Chicago. And then we have Jason Myers as his kicker going up against the Minnesota Titans. So this is going to be a good one, considering that German is going to look for his first win. He's currently 0-2 at risk being 0-3. I think that this is the game that Chase Claypool will go off for the Steelers, considering that Deontay Johnson is out for this matchup. I think that Chase Claypool, Mapletron, as they call him, will have a phenomenal game. So I'm calling it right now. Chase Claypool is going to be the X factor here. And same will go for Will Fuller, because he's going to make his debut. No, Tua Tagovailoa is going to be out. So let's see if Jacoby Brissett can connect with Will Fuller, see if there's any kind of chemistry there that they can form for some success. And I also believe that George Kittle will break out this week as well, being that he hasn't been too hot to begin the season in 2021. So that's why I'm going to say that German's going to unfortunately begin the season 0-3, and we'll have to make some moves to see if he can bounce back and turn his season around. So from there, let's go ahead and go to What a Travesty, another 0-2 team going up against Raider Nation David, who's currently 1-1. So here we go. For Danny, he has Lamar Jackson as his quarterback. His running backs, he has Nick Chubb, Devin Singletary. For his wide receivers, he has Allen Robinson and Michael Pittman Jr. For his tight end, he has Travis Kelce. And for his 2 flex positions, he's trying out 2 running backs with Chase Edmonds as well as James Robinson. And then he has, for his defense, he has the 49ers, and he has kicker Ryan Suckup going for him as well. Now for David, he has Dak Prescott as his quarterback. He has Aaron Jones and J.D. McKissick as his running backs. For his wide receivers, he has DeAndre Hopkins and Amari Cooper. As his tight end, he's going with Darren Waller. And with his flex position here, he had Robbie Anderson do absolutely nothing for him. And then we have Nyheim Hines in there to fill in his second flex spot. And then we have the Rams defense going up against the Buccaneers. And he has Daniel Carlson, kicker, going up against the Vikings. So, no, I'm sorry, going up against the Dolphins. So this is going to be currently the way it's projected. They have Danny winning it 140-122. And a little pro tip here: don't pay attention to the projections, because they just factor the projections for as far as stats and how they're distributed. So I'm not going to really rely on really what they're saying here. I'm really just looking at the matchups, and I think this matchup's going to be far closer than what they're being projected. I think that Dak Prescott will unfortunately have a good game versus my Philadelphia Eagles, even though I still think the Eagles are going to get a win. That's my personal take. Call me a homer, I can care less, but I think they're going to have a phenomenal game. Aaron Jones, will he bounce back and have another good performance after having a good one on Monday Night Football? I'm going to still go ahead and go for Danny pulling this one. I think that Lamar Jackson going up versus Detroit should bode well for him to have a phenomenal game. One of those games where he just goes completely bananas. I believe also Allen Robinson is going to be heavily reliant on with Justin Fields now beginning his career as a starter. So, and I also like Michael Pittman Jr., someone I was huge on. And for those that are currently in the chat, I'll be sure to address all your questions right now so we can go over all those. But Michael Pittman Jr., I think, has a plus matchup going up against the Titans. So Danny's going to get his first win of the season, making both of these gentlemen 1-2 by by the end of week 3. Now we have 2 more matchups. We have Eddie, aka The Last Dance, going up against Daniel just in time, who's currently 2-0, going up against Eddie, who's 1-1. Eddie is going to be having Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. He has Kareem Hunt as well as Tyson Williams as his running backs. For wide receiver, he has Keenan Allen as well as CeeDee Lamb. His tight end is going to be Kyle Pitts, and his 2 flex positions are Dalvin Cook as well as Tyler Lockett. Currently, his defense is empty. I'm sure he's going to fill that one really quick because he's streaming a defense. And then we have Harrison Butker as his kicker. For Daniel, he has Daniel Jones going up against the Falcons, and he has his 2 running backs with Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris. He has Tyler Boyd for him in wide receiver, as well as Brandin Cooks, who already had a phenomenal head start for him. And then we have Justin Jefferson as well as Jacoby Myers as his 2 flex spots. And then he also has TJ Hawkinson going up against the Baltimore Ravens. And then lastly, we have the Buffalo Bills and Greg Zuerlein going up against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night. So currently, the projections have Daniel winning 147 to 138. Brandin Cooks played a huge part in getting him that head start. I believe that Daniel has a lot of plus matchups here, considering that he has at least 2 of the players that I really love going into this week, especially Daniel Jones, someone who's been phenomenal so far, top 4 quarterback to begin the season. I also like Brandin Cooks already having a huge start for him. I like TJ Hawkinson going up against the Ravens, who've given up the most points to the tight end this year in 2021. And I think that Justin Jefferson going up against Seattle should bode well, being that they're going to have a pretty good shootout. They're one of the highest over-unders going into the week. So I like Daniel taking the win, going 3-0, leaving Eddie at 1-2, even though he does have some pretty good matchups there at his disposal with Tyson Williams. I'm a little bit nervous about Kareem Hunt being a starter in week number 3, being that he has, let me see who he has. He has Elijah Mitchell hurt, right? And he also has, and he has Dalvin Cook, who may be questionable. So it's a lot of question marks there, which makes it easy for me to go with Daniel in week number 3. Last matchup we have King Tut's Hareem, and he has Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. He has Christian McCaffrey and Darrell Henderson as his two running backs. For wide receiver, he has Mike Evans and Adam Thielen. For his tight end, he has Noah Fant. His 2 flex positions consist of Deebo Samuel and Julio Jones. His defense is the Buccaneers defense, and he has Brandon McManus as his kicker. For Shavah, he has quarterback Matthew Stafford. He also has Ezekiel Elliott and Clyde Edwards-Helaire as his 2 running backs. For his wide receivers, he has A.J. Brown and Cooper Kupp. And he has at tight end Rob Gronkowski, and his 2 flex positions consist of DeAndre Swift and Sony Michel. And then just rounding out his lineup, he has the Cardinals defense going up against Jacksonville, and he has Matt Gay, kicker, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this is going to be a pretty, so right now it's one of the lowest projected matchups in this league. We have Shavah favored to win 133 to 126, and I believe that with so many question marks there for Jimmy, considering that Christian McCaffrey only gave him 6 points to start the week off. Same with Darrell Henderson being doubtful to play with that rib injury. I think that the matchup favors Shavah, being that there isn't many question marks going into this one. I get that Matthew Stafford's going up against the Buccaneers, but they give up so many points to Dak Prescott in week 1, and I believe that Matthew Stafford, with the offense that he has and the weapons that he has there as well, will be able to go toe-to-toe with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers for a phenomenal game. I also believe that Ezekiel Elliott will have a tough matchup going up against the Eagles. CEH, I'm a little bit nervous on, and I love Cooper Kupp as well, that connection that he has there with Matthew Stafford, which makes a great deadly stack for Shavah. And also Rob Gronkowski going up against the Rams should be a pretty good matchup, considering that I did say that Tom Brady is matchup proof in 2021. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and just give the prediction here, because Sony Michel is my one question mark, because if Darrell Henderson does play, they're gonna go up against the Buccaneers, who are a phenomenal defense, to shut down the running back position. So my prediction here is gonna be Shavah going 2-1, and will get the win versus Jimmy, who unfortunately saw Christian McCaffrey go down on Thursday and may be also without Darrell Henderson Jr. in week 3. So, all right, guys, that is the matchups that we had going over. So let me go ahead and close this out really quick and quickly go over our show breakdown. So we went over the injury news. We went over the players I love in week 3. We went over cap or no cap, whether Tom Brady is matchup proof in 2021. That's no cap. Tom Brady matchup proof for the rest of season in 2021. Went over my bold prediction of Dallas Goedert going up against the Dallas Cowboys. We went over some TikTok Q&A. And being that we're here right now, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of these questions and give a quick shout out to the guys that are here or the people that are tuning in. I really do appreciate a lot. Oh, oops, sorry. Let me go ahead and quickly pull this up. We are going to go to main camera right here. Okay, so let me see. We have Mitchie DeGoat. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Remember, if you guys are here stopping by, I would mean a lot if you just hit that like button for me, as well as hit that subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. I'm trying to make sure that I'm adding as much value to you guys. And I love the community aspect of fantasy football and what it brings to the community. So let me go ahead and quickly answer some of these questions. So we have here Mitchie DeGoat, Rondell Moore, or Marquise Hollywood Brown full PPR. So this is a good one. So let me pull up this matchup real quick, what we got here. So we have, for Rondell Moore, he's going to be going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And when we have Marquise Hollywood Brown, and they're going up against the Lions. So I'm going to go with Marquise Hollywood Brown. He's had a phenomenal start to the year. He also ended the season strong in 2020, so I believe that Marquise Hollywood Brown is going to have a good matchup. And Rondell Moore, we're still waiting to find out how he's going to be utilized. He has been heavily targeted so far, and I love the explosiveness that he brings to the table, but there's still some question marks on how he's going to be fully implemented into that offense. So for now, I would go with the guaranteed solidified connection that Marquise Hollywood Brown has with Lamar Jackson. So in week 3, go ahead and go with Marquise Hollywood Brown over Rondell Moore. Next question, C. Crip is asking, if DeAndre Hopkins is out, do you play Christian Kirk or Michael Pittman Jr.? I don't typically do this, but for you, I'm going to do this. Watch this, Sam. I'm going to pull up a previous graphic I had, and that's your answer. I think that Michael Pittman Jr. over Christian Kirk is an easy one. I just love the talent there. Christian Kirk, though there is so much that was supposed to be made of him coming into the season, or rather coming into his tenure with the Cardinals. But I just like Michael Pittman Jr. Quick stats that I can share with you about Michael Pittman Jr. is that he's going up against the Titans, who gave up the fifth most fantasy points to the wide receiver in 2020. He spends 75% of the time of his 75% of the time he's in the perimeter, and I think that he has a great matchup going up against Jenkins as well as Fulton, those cornerbacks. And also, fun fact, the Titans gave up the 4th most points to perimeter wide receivers, so that's why he's going to be an easy start for me over Christian Kirk in this week 3 matchup. So go with him. Be confident going with Michael Pittman Jr. in week number 3. Next one we have here, C. Crip, I would start Pittman. That's a good call. I like it. What about if Wentz doesn't play? Still, I just think because he's the number 1 guy there with the Colts. So Michael Pittman Jr. is someone that already has the solidified target share there. No matter how much it is, he's still going to be the number 1 guy. So I would go with Michael Pittman in week number 3. Next one we have here. Should I start Kenyon Drake over Saquon, Miles Sanders, or Joe Mixon? Hell no. Hell no. Do not start any of these. Don't start Kenyon Drake over Saquon. Don't start them over Miles Sanders or Joe Mixon. That's an easy one. I mean, I get it. Maybe Joe Mixon, you have a conversation there, but there's still opportunities that Joe Mixon can get you some value with his receiving ability, being that I'm assuming you're playing in a PPR league, being that should be the only league that you should be playing in anyways. But I think that Joe Mixon should at least, he has a better chance of getting into the end zone, and I get it. The Raiders, with the concerns of Josh Jacobs and his health, I get it. But keep Kenyon Drake just benched. There's no way you should consider him starting over Miles Sanders, who's going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who are okay against the run. And then same with Saquon. He's going up against the Falcons. This is the game where if Saquon doesn't do well, I start to hit the panic button. No, I don't have Saquon in any of my leagues. I didn't invest in him because I was nervous about him already to begin with, coming off that injury. But you're good. Just don't overthink it. Don't get cute. You're in the good, especially because you have a roster that has Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, as well as Saquon Barkley. So I think you're more than fine. So once again, guys, keep on hitting that like button for me. That would mean a lot. As well as if you have any questions, I'm on every single Saturday around this time, so that way we can go over the matchups coming up on Sunday, and of course give you my best analysis coming into the week. But if that is it for questions, I highly encourage you to please, as always, subscribe, share it with someone as well. I'm trying to obviously grow this thing, and once again, to officially introduce myself, my name is Ivan Herrera. I've been playing fantasy football for over a decade now. I love fantasy football, not because because of the winnings, that's all fun and dandy. I mean, I have a trophy back there, as you can see, but I really do it for the community. I think this is one of the most passionate communities, and the one thing that we lack so much right now, and I think in this world, is connection, is community. So I'm looking to always connect with every single person that's here. So I love answering your questions, sharing some knowledge, also learning from you as well. And let me see. So I traded Saquon and Hawkinson for Devontae Adams, Kittle, and Josh Jacobs. My league mate sent the trade to me. Did I win that trade? So you have, let me make sure I understand your trade. So you got, okay, so you got Saquon and Hawkins. Sorry, Saquon for Devontae Adams. Oh, so you got Devontae Adams, Kittle, and Josh Jacobs? Is that what you're saying, Troy? Because if you did, you won that trade. If you got Devontae Adams, George Kittle, and Josh Jacobs, and you have Kenyon Drake, you have the insurance policy for him, plus you have Devontae Adams, who's a PPR monster, wide receiver, best one probably in the league, with George Kittle, who was a great buy low candidate. If you did that, phenomenal job. Yeah, phenomenal job, dude. You won that trade. And you know what? Quickly, I'm going to go in a little bit of a rant, not too much, but when it comes to fantasy football trades, fantasy football players and managers are the most passionate and illogical people that you'll ever meet. So when you're looking to make a negotiation, don't take it personal. Just understand your league. So for instance, this past week, I went to go shop around for Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I think he's a great buy low candidate. I still love the offense that he's in. Maybe he's not putting out numbers that we were all looking forward to, considering that he plays for the Chiefs. But I asked the manager for CEH, and he said he's looking for an RB1 for CEH. And I'm thinking, are you delusional? You want an RB1 for a player who isn't putting up RB1 numbers? Granted, I get that you drafted him to be your running back number one, but he should not be evaluated as a running back number one. And one of the things that drives me nuts, and listen, I'm all for negotiating. You're not forced to make a trade, but I love to play in leagues that are actually active. I like to play in fantasy football leagues where you can at least have conversations and went back and forth. But some people will take it personal. Dude, it's fantasy football. Have some fun. The thing that makes fantasy football fun is making trades, making moves, negotiating. Don't take it personal. Every single player has a price. And one of my pet peeves is when players over-evaluate other players. And look, when it comes to in-season management, throw ADP out the window. Throw wherever you drafted them out of the window, because now things change. For example, Marquez Callaway, if you drafted earlier in the summer, was a phenomenal trade piece, being that he had a lot of buzz going around him. Right now, I'll probably drop Marquez Callaway if I had him from the Saints. So that's my thing. Hopefully I didn't scream your ear off. I don't mean to lecture anyone, but I just get passionate about that. Like, dude, just negotiate in trades and know also your players. Like, come on, dude. That's just me. But anyways, we'll go ahead and close this out. Thank you once again. If you made it to the very end of this video, thank you so much for tuning into the 100 Fantasy Football channel. I encourage you, as always, to hit that like button, subscribe, and check out all the other videos that I have here on this channel. And as always, I look forward to connecting with you guys once again. Best of luck this weekend, and keep it 100.